I would appraise this book actually at about $40,000.
Let me tell you, you are lucky.
You probably saved my job.
Well, you can thank me with some chocolate or something.
She walked into one of the most chaotic, unpredictable environments on television. A pawn shop floor packed with cameras, haggling strangers, and the constant noise of deals being made and broken, and she did it carrying nothing but a magnifying glass and a lifetime of knowledge most people couldn't begin to imagine. No shouting. No drama. No inflated ego. Just quiet, unshakable authority. She looked at a piece of paper, told you what it was worth, and you believed her. Because she was almost always right. Rebecca Romney, the rare book expert on Pawn Stars. The woman who could hold a 400-year-old document and read it like yesterday's newspaper. 4 million viewers, she was simply the book lady, the calm, precise presence who appeared whenever Rick Harrison was in over his head with manuscripts, folios, and signed first editions. But here's what most people never knew. The version of Rebecca Romney that appeared on screen was only a fraction of who she actually is. There was a full life happening behind those appraisals, a career that went far deeper than television, and a story that the History Channel never bothered to tell. Today we are telling it. Rebecca was born on April 6, 1985, in Phoenix, Arizona. Growing up in the desert Southwest, nothing about her early years pointed toward rare books or million-dollar manuscripts. She wasn't haunting dusty antique shops as a child. She was an intellectually restless young woman who fell in love with something far more abstract than objects. She fell in love with language itself. By the time she reached college, she wasn't dreaming of book auctions. She was dreaming of philosophy seminars and translation work, of spending her life wrestling with ideas in their original tongues. She enrolled at Brigham Young University to study philosophy and classical studies, pushed herself well beyond what any curriculum required, and graduated in 2007 with honors and fluency in an extraordinary range of languages: French, Japanese, Latin, Ancient Greek, alongside her native English. Her thesis involved close analysis of early Greek texts, and her professors recognized something unusual: a mind built for deep, precise, patient reading. What nobody knew then was that those exact skills would one day make her one of the most valuable rare book authenticators in the country. Her entry into the rare book world was not planned. In 2007, fresh out of college, she applied for what she believed was a standard management position at Bowman Rare Books in Philadelphia. She had misread the job listing. The role was for a rare book specialist, requiring specific expertise in antiquarian materials that she simply did not have. When she walked in for the interview and realized the mistake, she could have turned and left. Instead, she stayed. She was honest about having no formal training, no background in the trade, no obvious reason to be hired. What she did have was her language background, her academic discipline, and a capacity to absorb complex information at speed. Bowman Rare Books took a chance on her, and that gamble paid off at a scale nobody anticipated. Within months she was handling materials most collectors only ever see behind museum glass: pages from the Gutenberg Bible, Shakespeare folios from the 1600s, first editions of Isaac Newton's Principia Mathematica. By 2010, just 3 years in, she was promoted to gallery manager at the company's Las Vegas location. She was 26 years old. By 2013, she had become the youngest senior director in the company's history, overseeing catalogs, auction relationships, and private sales regularly exceeding 7 figures annually. The story of how she ended up on Pawn Stars has nothing to do with Hollywood casting. There were no auditions, no talent scouts, no agents making calls. It came down to geography and genuine trust. When Bowman Rare Books opened their Las Vegas location, Rebecca eventually took charge of running it. Rick Harrison had been operating the gold and silver pawn shop since 1989, and the world of rare and historically significant objects in Las Vegas was a smaller community than most people realized. Antique dealers, estate lawyers, auction specialists, they crossed paths regularly. Rick and Rebecca met through industry events and mutual professional contacts, and Rick recognized what she was. Not television-friendly expertise. Real expertise. When the show needed someone to evaluate books, letters, and manuscripts, Rick didn't ask producers to find an expert. He called someone he already trusted. Her first appearance came in April 2011, during Season 4. The producers handed her Civil War-era documents and she went to work. Within the segment, she identified a forged signature on a Confederate bond that changed the item's value dramatically. Viewers responded immediately. She wasn't performing expertise. She was exercising it. What made Rebecca different on screen wasn't just what she knew. It was how completely she refused to perform. Television appraisal experts have always leaned into drama, widening their eyes at big reveals, drawing out pauses, building tension for the camera. Rebecca simply evaluated. She picked up the item, examined it with the focused attention of someone who had done this thousands of times, and told you what she found. Her explanations were clear and intelligent without being condescending. When she had bad news for a seller, she delivered it without theater. Over the course of her regular run on the show, roughly 2011 through early 2015, she handled an extraordinary range of materials. She authenticated a first edition of Charles Darwin's On the Origin of Species, one of only a few hundred copies printed in 1859. She evaluated Edgar Allan Poe manuscripts hidden inside documents thought to be worthless. She appraised first editions of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. She examined Revolutionary War documents, slave trade papers, and presidential correspondence. Each time, she brought the same composure and the same deep underlying knowledge. The calm that viewers saw on screen was the calm of someone who had spent years building real competence in private, without cameras, without an audience. Then came 2014, and the episode that would quietly set off one of the strangest chapters in the show's history. A seller brought in what was identified as a rare 1841 edition of the Book of Mormon. Rebecca appraised it at approximately $40,000. Rick Harrison purchased it for well below the seller's asking price, and on the surface it looked like another standard deal. But not long after the episode aired, questions surfaced about the book's origins. Rumors spread, primarily through online forums and Reddit threads, that the volume had been stolen from the Marriott Library at the University of Utah. According to accounts that circulated at the time, federal investigators became involved, and the book was eventually recovered from the shop without any public charges being filed. Rebecca Romney was reportedly questioned as part of that process. The question, based on available accounts, centered on procedure. How could a stolen item of significant historical value make it onto national television without triggering any alarm? It must be stated clearly that Rebecca was never charged with any crime. She was never publicly accused of knowingly handling stolen property. No official statement was ever released connecting her to wrongdoing of any kind. But the questions had been asked, and the timing of what came next was impossible to ignore. In January 2015, Rebecca appeared in what turned out to be her last regular episode of Pawn Stars. She appraised a historical text connected to 18th century piracy. Rick bought it for a fraction of her estimate, as he always did. And then she was simply gone. No announcement. No farewell segment. No statement from the History Channel, from the producers, or from Rebecca herself. After nearly 4 years and roughly 19 episodes, one of the show's most consistently compelling recurring figures had disappeared without explanation. Fan forums filled with theories almost immediately. Had she been pushed out? Was her departure connected to the investigation? Had something happened off camera that nobody was willing to discuss publicly? The History Channel said nothing. Rebecca said nothing. The silence stretched on. The reality of her departure, stripped of conspiracy, is almost certainly more straightforward than the forums wanted it to be. In 2016, she accepted a senior promotion within Bowman Rare Books that required her to leave Las Vegas for Philadelphia. This was a legitimate professional step that aligned perfectly with her trajectory inside the company. She later moved to Brooklyn and eventually to Washington, D.C., as her career continued evolving at a pace that had nothing to do with television schedules. The complicating factor, for anyone inclined toward suspicion, is the timing. The promotion came within months of the Book of Mormon incident. Whether that was coincidence, or whether conversations happened behind closed doors that accelerated her transition away from the show's filming base, nobody outside that situation has ever said publicly. What is not in question is what happened to her career after she left. It did not slow down. It accelerated dramatically. In 2017, she and her then-husband J.P. Romney co-authored a book called Printer's Error, Irreverent Stories from Book History. It was a well-reviewed popular history of printing that covered everything from early forgery scandals to the strange economics of 15th-century publishing houses. Critics praised it. It sold well. And it introduced Rebecca's expertise to a readership that had never watched a single episode of Pawn Stars, establishing her as a serious voice in literary history rather than just a television personality who happened to know about books. That same year, she and JP were still a working partnership, though by 2023 that marriage had ended. She has spoken very little about her personal life publicly and has kept her 2 children entirely out of the spotlight, which, given the level of public curiosity surrounding her, speaks to a deliberate and firm privacy boundary that she has maintained consistently.